Good evening, beautiful people in here with me in this beautiful Upper Norwood Library Hub, and all you beautiful people watching at home on Facebook, on YouTube. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome to the first ever Words Flow Festival. I'm very excited and I'm gonna say a little nervous. This is the first time I'm hosting for this year and the first time I've been out on a proper stage, I think, for ages. But I'm really excited for this beautiful ambience, beautiful presence, and beautiful poetry that you are gonna have the joy and the wonderful experience of just soaking in and enjoying and watching over these next 3 wonderful, wonderful, wonderful evenings. It's gonna be really, really great. I've had a lot of fun, a lot of hard work putting this together, bringing together some really, really wonderful performers and poets and spoken word artists for you. For those of you who don't know, because I haven't even introduced myself, which is so weird and rude, I am Shanika Benjamin. I'm going to be your host for the next 3 evenings. I am a poet myself. I'm a Croydon girl. I'm proud of it. And lots of other things, but it's not about me today. Today, for those of you who do not know, the first day of Words Flow Festival is the Young Poets Showcase. Now, it was so, so important for me to have a Young Poet Showcase because young people are amazing, of course, but also because I myself have an organization called Young People Insight, which is all about empowering the voices of young people through creativity, conversation, and writing. And I had a monthly poetry night, which was my baby, one of my babies. So I had to get young poets having their voices heard all for themselves today, because that's just so key, so important, and they just need to be heard. And they are fire poets, spoken word artists, so you are in for an absolute treat tonight. So before we get into the performances, everyone at home, I want you to join in on this too. So act like you're in here with us. I want you to act like you're actually in here with us, even though you're on a sofa or on a chair or something. Get comfortable, get your drinks, get your snacks, stuff like that, but really engage. So everyone at home, put your hands up too, everyone in here. Who's been to a poetry event before? Wonderful, lots of you have. That is absolutely perfect. So if you like something or feel moved by something or are really engaged, what do you do at a poetry event? Jamal, yeah? You had an over there, which I like, and a click. So click, if you want to do that too. So please click. In the room, please click. If you're at home, please click as well. I want you to feel like you really are here, really, really, really engage with us. Feel the ambience, really feel this event tonight. So if you like it, click, okay, say it again. Anything that you feel moved to do, please do that. Just really soak in the words, learn from the words, and open your heart and your mind, because poetry is amazing and it's not so scary, and it's definitely not so boring either, which you're gonna find out tonight. So, without further ado, we're going to get into some performances because no one came to hear me ramble for ages. Nobody wants that. I don't want that either. So, first of all, we're going to have to change up the lineup a little bit tonight. So, first of all, I'm very excited. When I was hearing this is in Crystal Palace, we've got a Crystal Palace native, which is what we want, which I'm very, 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 very excited about. I've heard this wonderful poet share poetry before, and she is phenomenal, she is fire, she is deep, she is wonderful. Also, please be aware there's some strong language, so be aware of that if you don't want to hear it. I hope you won't turn off, but if you feel uncomfortable, just be aware and look out for that now. So, please, can we get some clicks? Can we get some claps? And can we get some love for Sam Moore Verity?
Like this to get it up. Why am I so tall? Yeah. That's true. Right. Hello. I'm Sam. I'm going to stop talking about myself. I'm not going to talk about myself. This first poem is called an honesty poem. Yeah. Cool. Hi, I'm Sam. I'm 19, I'm nearly 20, and I'm a Sagittarius, which I think is supposed to make me adventurous, but I haven't left South London for countless months, and I almost always end up falling for the same kind of people. You see, I have this habit. I'm a dreamer, and I end up dreaming dreams that someone might fall in love with me despite my too long legs and my socially performative stutter. I always go back on myself, and I break my own promises. Once upon a time, I pinky swore myself that I wouldn't bore myself on more disinterested men, and again, I ended up in the wrong person's bed. Told myself it was because the world was ending. Now I think I thought it was something else instead. I do this thing, I ignore my head. It's dusty. It has cobwebs and it smells of old books. I ignore my head. I ignore my wise old head for the sake of my bruised and battered heart, which is getting hard. It's just become a living wound. I'm fairly pessimistic and occasionally narcissistic, but I'm so insecure that my narcissism and my low self-esteem have merged into one unrecognizable human being, and all she craves is to be seen constantly, even though she is very, very rarely a necessity. I'm concerned that I'm addicted to guacamole and that my bloodstream is nothing but a disturbing cocktail of rum, coke, and herbal tea. And I didn't mean cola. I feel like a phony, someone fake. With folk I name as friends, I feel out of place, and talking about my problems is not something that I can do. I felt like I needed to see a therapist just for being so honest at therapy. Although somehow admitting my heart's secrets through poetry, my conscience is fine. And my narcissistic side, she particularly doesn't mind. It really lets her thrive. I tend to overreact and overshare. I get people into shit for what feels like a minor tongue slip. Sorry, by the way, if that's ever happened, because once I get there, past my socially performative scare, words seem to roll off of my tongue like bullets from the barrel of a machine gun, and all I can fire is rounds of also honest truth. I've had so many episodes of manic that I don't think anyone's ever going to panic, because there I go again, but I am afraid that there's so much of it in my system that when I died, my bones would be blitzed and you could get high sniffing my powders. I do stupid things that make people stressed, and I guess that now's the time to confess that I probably own too many jumpers, and that if it came to jumping, I probably still would. I've got major dad issues, and despite a collection, I wear maybe 3 pairs of shoes. I can't play the piano anymore, and I want more tattoos. I'm a disgrace to my younger self. I've stopped my practice, I've gotten into bad habits, so I just wanted to say that I'm sorry to the soul I used to be. Times changed and things got hard, so I'm afraid to say that you and I have drifted apart. Just carry on. This is called food poisoning. We've all spent so long consuming half-baked lies and filling our systems with poison that we to ourselves are lying, speaking false truths. It'll take a hell of a lot for me to say, hey, actually, I might have feelings for you before I've lost your feelings in my blue lying face. And I'll admit it, once the emotions are gone and I've then moved along, and there I am lying to myself and we're lying to each other. I'm craving some honesty. I'm sick and tired of fuck-making. Give me some love-making. Give me raw, honest, and heartbreaking, because I've forgotten how to feel. Please make me feel something real. We've all spent so long online that I think this time the next stage in our evolutionary bloodline will be in binary. And then we'll be far from unique, just a 0 or a 1. Not 1 in 8 billion or 1 in a million, just 1 in 2. And then where will we have to go? When will we stop being amazed by the sight of snow? Will we ever see the snow again, or will we continue to watch the world fly by without following the spaces in between the seconds that fly by like snowflakes in a blizzard? The ones that move in slow motion and contain such precious heart-to-soul human moments. When will we stop listening to the people that we can't relate to and start noticing that the gaps in our sentences are becoming so elongated that we have regressed to an ancient time that lived beyond the need for speech? You and I have all become so reliant on our lives online that it's like we can't speak without a typeface fonted front. We only talk about the surface. We don't try to speak about the desperate deep end and the problems drowning in the white noise wave sounds. There are people, places, and things screaming out for our help, but we've tuned them out in whale sounds and yoga classes fueled by chai lattes and sushi dates, and it's like we don't touch. Not properly. Not anymore. The spaces between electrons have been torn apart, leaking pollution into the rivers that make up and run between the delicate embroidery that makes up human society. We don't taste the truth anymore. We ignore the disenfranchised youth and gorge ourselves on lies that we still refuse to savor because our false truth puddings are so filled with fakeness and Eve flavoring that we're each able to cave in and accept these marinated fictions as life-saving honesty. We're reading magazines, photoshopped faces, false, forced images of perfection that we attempt to attain without realizing that all of this is done in vain. Today's world is so full of fakery and lies that you cannot breathe without something amiss being newly shoved down your throat. I lay awake all night struggling to compose this piece of prose that speaks an extended truth because it's so crafted that it almost feels fake. For the words on this page, I have strained trying to find the right rhythms and rhymes, and I'm not quite there yet. Nothing any of us do will ever be perfect, but that, I think, is the point of mortality. To embrace those strange and sideswept, far-fetched moments that are so near to sublime that it shouldn't matter. I'm just trying to say, be careful about the falsehoods that you may speak. And in the serving of your speech, consider to serve it with a large scoop of the most honest truth that you can find. Thank you. Am I okay to do one more? One more? This is my last one. Patchwork City. It's very close to my heart. London town. Look on her. Our patchwork city. Her night lit by wounded starlight and constellations built by skyscrapers. Look on her. Dense parks growing green and vast concrete jungles of grey. Look on her. Our patchwork city. Top full of 8 million different dreams and every kind of community, a varietable safari of street cats, stray dogs, and sewer rats. Look on her. A mismatch of history, be it ancient or still in creation. She is a quilt, carefully crafted of stories from Susie Sue to Shakespeare to Stormzy. Mine is a city defined by the artful lives that she has created. London town. A wild crossover universe wrapped up neat in a parcel bound by no form or language because she breathes an air of the freest verses of poetry. The beating heart of my city exists not in the offices and parliament from whence she has run, but in the backstreet markets that sprawl the entire world's map. She exists in kids penning verses on benches and in the miles upon miles of street art. My London, my city stays somehow smiling among shootings and stabbings. She stays standing somehow strong through the union of a million different souls sharing and spreading their love way too thin. My love, my London sees beyond the strained fields of vision proposed by those in government. She sees budget cuts instead of trust funds, and yet she stays still smiling, and the voices of the 8 million different dreams still sing, begging to be heard. I'd listen to them all if I could. Dance them on the moon so that all of space, the sun, and the stars would remember the legacy of my city. Never until now has this town seen the echoing silence that exists in the space dust. Never until now did I think I'd miss it, the sound of hordes of traffic crammed down streets too narrow. My heart aches for my city, once polluted by nightlife. I long to live again in all that is vibrant, beautiful, and free, to breathe in the ups and downs of my version of London town.
Thank you, Sam. That was all kinds of deep and beautiful and wonderful and really honest. You say that honesty is a key thing in your poetry.
Yes.
What is it about poetry that allows you to be so honest?
I don't know. I genuinely don't know. We started doing, when I started sixth form, I went to the Norwood School just down the road. We did script writing classes because I am formerly an actor. And we were doing script writing classes, and we do these things called instant writing exercises, you know, where you just write how you feel. And when we were talking about like the key things that were coming up, my tutor said, that it comes out. I come across very poetically in the way I speak when I'm trying to speak my truth. So I think just my truth comes out in words.
That's beautiful. Truth comes out in words. I really, really, really love that. What is it about the power of words? Why are words so powerful? Why do you love words so much?
I used to get in trouble for reading too much.
Really?
When I was little.
Okay.
Some concerning conversations about me having no friends and reading too much.
Okay.
In the playground. So I've always found that as an escape and that as a place to create my own world or use my imagination. I just think words are the most important thing in the universe.
That's beautiful. I think words are really, really key. I can concur. I love reading too. I think books are the most amazing things. What would you say to encourage young people out there to read more and to read more poetry even?
To read, just find, it's about finding what you like. Because the education system, while I enjoyed doing English and stuff at school, I was also a bit of a nerd. But it's not, you don't have to read the books. You can listen to audiobooks. Audiobooks are very relaxing. But I don't know, poetry, there are loads of spoken word artists on YouTube, loads of poets have videos on YouTube, so you can just, I like sitting and listening to poetry, to be honest. A lot of musicians write poetry. That's a way of getting into it. Reading's cool. Reading's cool, guys. You should read more. People should read more.
I think Sam's right. Reading is cool. I love it. But I also get you where I hated poetry at school myself. And I got into it through watching it. So I like what you said about encouraging to watch it, because I now love reading poetry because I first watched poetry.
Yeah.
Who are your favorite poets, if you have any, or who do you love to listen to?
There is a man called Rudy Francisco. I'm talking about him straight away.
Oh, yeah.
We love Rudy Francisco.
Yeah.
He's a Chicago poet. And my first piece, because he wrote an honesty poem, which is just, you just strip everything back and you just write about yourself, which I find weird to talk about myself a lot, but I rated his idea and I was like, that's a good way of examining your own character. So Rudy Francisco, my G.
Yeah, he's awesome.
There are loads. I like Charles Baudelaire. He's an old French man, but Charles Baudelaire's a cool guy. And Emilia Bassano, who was the first published woman in British history.
Seriously, I didn't know about that.
She's a badass woman, and I was attracted to her initially because of her story, but she writes banging poetry, and it's very empowering to read as a mostly female identifying person.
Amazing. So for any young person out there who just really hates poetry and is like, no, who would you send them to watch or listen to be like, to change their perceptions?
Rudy Francisco.
Rudy Francisco, everybody. So
George Watsky.
Okay, yeah.
That's about it.
So everyone, Rudy Francisco, go look him up. I can attest he's brilliant. If you think you don't like poetry, check him out. You may change your mind. So when did you start writing poetry?
I was 15 when I started writing and performing stuff. I did a show at the English National Opera, which was based around Yanufa. It was like a free project for young people. And I went to an art school, so they reached out to us. And we were working with this really cool director, Peter Kant. And he asked us all to write a poem that was a spell. And I was like, all right, cool. And I wrote it. And I remember when I first read it out to the group I was working in, and everyone was just like, whoa. And I was like, whoa. I like it when people say whoa. It boosts my ego. But that was very cool, because then almost every single time I worked with the ENO after that, Peter Kant was there, and he said, Sam, are you still writing poetry? And he gave me a notebook and said, write poetry. And then I started sixth form and script writing, and I wanted to write a play that was a big poem. So I've just been exploring myself through words.
That's beautiful. I love that. I really, really love that. So I think people were saying more and excited here tonight. So hopefully you felt that sort of energy here tonight, which is thank you so much, Sam. You've been amazing and beautiful. And I've loved talking to you and getting to know more about your poetry journey and stuff like that. Sam, more Verity, everybody. Sam, more Verity, everyone. Wasn't she just amazing? So amazing, so amazing. I was just like, wow, through everything. I love the one about London. It really was really, really London. So I'm so proud and happy to welcome my next performer. She is someone from one of my own poetry nights, so I am very happy to have her involved here. We'll talk a bit more to her afterwards. So can we get some clicks and claps and love for Chantae?
Good evening, everyone. I'm just gonna see if I can get this a bit higher. Cool. So I've got 3 poems for you guys tonight. And I guess I'll just get started. So I want to love and be loved. I want to pour my heart out to a stranger until we're no longer estranged. I want long conversations. Silly ones, funniest ones, serious ones, heartbreaking ones. I want all of it, the whole endeavor. I want to get my heart ripped out and put back together again. I want tears and laughter and smiling and anger. I want electricity and fire to be consumed by desire. I want to take a breath now because I'm getting ahead of myself. But isn't that what love is? Getting ahead of oneself, falling head over heels for someone, the perfect someone, or maybe the one that might just lead you straight to that someone. Isn't it funny how we're all just trying to find that special someone? And isn't it funny how some of us never do? Thank you. That one was called Long Lost Love. And now my next poem is called The Prototype. I apologize now to my mother for the metaphors and imagery. Please forgive me. Okay. You'd say you love me, that you crave every part, every ridge, every jagged edge, that when you'd caress the smooth bridge of my hips, the raw skin beneath your fingertips would tingle. And when you'd caress the smooth bridge of my hips, the raw skin beneath your hand would mingle with sweet sensations, pleasant, sensual. You tell me that all my features are your favorite, that my smile would always be enough to wake yours, and that the width of my chest has the best personality, and that my body is a temple and your favorite place to worship. You would breathe in my air and believe in me like a new religion. Freshly cut, freshly printed, freshly laid out at your disposal. You'd reassure me that your need to cherish the newly paved roads of my thighs could never quite be truly satisfied. Still, you'd be ignorant to the not so dry tar beneath you, that which was needed to create this newer model, easier to handle and lighter to hold. You would never care for the prototype that was needed in order to achieve this kind of magic. And her significance is laid out before me. Rusty hinges, overgrown weeds. She too is also at your disposal. And she watches me from the corner of the room, eyes wide in her own darkness, her hair tangled in the lies she had believed to be true. Black streaks flow from her eyes, vision blurred. Seeing me was just too much for her. But seeing her like this, it almost makes me want to give her the satisfaction in telling her that she was right. Thank you. Yeah, that one was a tough one to write, but it came out well, I guess. So, so the last poem I have for you guys is called Door Handle, and I guess I'll just get started. Truly, I am the ruler of this home, the keeper. I guard its secrets from treacherous ears and yet hide them from their owners. And when I can no longer give them back, cold hands pry me open, revealing secrets that could never exist in a barren carcass where nothing used to be. I am put on display, the main exhibition of a mutilated artifact for others to judge, speculate, appreciate, no more than an ancient relic living in the second-hand shoes of my past. A piece of forgotten history, and yet the most essential. And still, the flame that summer offered could never be enough to tame the chill that winter left behind, to melt the ice from my touch. A heartless ornament left to care for closed doors that no one wanted to open. Since my key to my secrets isn't available in the places they want to look in, and since my hands are never the right temperature for them to explore my emptiness with theirs, since I could never reciprocate their level of kindness, I gave more. I gave, I twisted, I turned, I became moldable until my hinges cried. My key unrecognizable under a sheet of rust and mold. It no longer fits the curves that outline the silhouette of my bear, of my hollow. A foreign entity tailored to the tattered line from the sheets of metal that were once used to carve it with. Only it wasn't made for me. And the door for which I kept such deep regard no longer opens for me. It has a new master, better, brighter, one that has no need for rust, one whose sole companion embodies the warmth of a single fingerprint. Thank you.
Thank you, Shantae. So, first of all, I just want to ask the second poem you said it was hard to write. Why is that? I just really want to know.
Well, as though the imagery and metaphors would probably make you assume otherwise. I wrote that poem as a way to kind of express how I would feel if, as being a big girl, I will admit that, what would happen if I decided to kind of like lose, just, shed a few pounds, let's put it that way, and be a different size, and how would I appreciate finding someone who would say, I love you, being in a relationship with that person, but would you love me if I was the way I was before?
Wow, that's powerful, powerful. And not what I was expecting, so really interesting. Thank you. You say you fell off with poetry since you were a little girl, which is lovely to hear because I can't really relate to that. What is it about poetry that you fell in love with?
Just everything. Like in primary school, I was writing. Secondary school, I was writing. I wasn't really that much into performing until I met you. But I've just literally just always been writing. I just think there's something about words and the way you can just manipulate them and use them to just kind of, like, you can use the same metaphor or visual, like, imagery or idea for like two different things, which I think is really cool. I guess that's probably why it's just always been a way for me to say what I'm feeling without actually saying what I'm feeling, which I think is probably the reason why I like it so much.
I like that. I like that. Words. It's really interesting today. My uncle took on that same thing about how words can just mean so much, which is really amazing. So for those of you who don't know, like I went back to my old school to do like a talk for Black History Month, and Chantae performed, and I was just like, oh my gosh, you have to go to my poetry night and perform that poem because it's about Black history. So I like poached her there, and then like
She stole me away.
I did. How did you feel to perform that first time? Because that can be really tough, I think.
Well, I mean, it was my first time performing poetry. It wasn't really my first time performing because I've always been a performer. But it was my first time performing like something that I'd done myself outside of school, which was, it was daunting, but also quite gratifying, I would say.
What's the difference, you think, between performing poetry and just the writing that is not being performed? What do you feel is the biggest difference?
I think the difference is, and from what I've like spoken to like my friends and other people about who write poetry, is that when it's your writing, which I mean it's valid the way it is because you've written it, but there's just something different about performing it, because when it's just like words that are just like from your mind to paper and no one else is going to see it. It's just for you to kind of just be with yourself about and just be honest with yourself. But there's just something, it's just a different kind of level, I guess, when it comes from just you by yourself, and then it's just exposing that level of truth and honesty for other people to, like my poem said, to judge and speculate. You know what I mean? So I think it's just kind of being vulnerable with other people about how you feel is a different level to being vulnerable with yourself about it.
Well, yeah, vulnerability is a key thing, I think, on the stage. It's really brave, to be honest, really, really, really brave. So lastly, did you enjoy studying poetry at school?
I did.
Luckily for you, because I didn't. What do you think about this decision to remove poetry from the GCSE curriculum?
Oh, no. I think there's so many things that we can learn from just like studying poetry. It's not even just the fact that I enjoyed it at school, because I really do like love seeing how people write and they're like how they're expressing themselves. It's a good way to show like young children that there are other ways of expressing how you're feeling, because like these are outlets. And I think it's not just poetry, it's like the whole arts that schools are trying to get rid of. And it's just like you're taking away things like creative things that help young children express themselves in a way that they probably can't do through like just talking about it in a conversation. There are other ways of getting around expressing themselves. And I think taking poetry out of the curriculum is kind of just backing children up into a corner. Not even just like young children, but if you don't have a way to express yourself, you're just backing yourself into a corner and not letting yourself feel the things you're feeling.
Couldn't answer better myself. Thank you, everyone. Chantae. Oh my. Yeah. Chantae, everyone, again. Thank you. I really enjoyed that conversation. Really enjoyed. This is why I wanted this key bit of not just performances, but the conversation. I'm gonna take this off for now because young people just have the most amazing, wonderful things to say, and hearing their voices, not just through poetry, but just outside in a profound way, is so important and key. So the final performer of the night, I'm very, very excited for you to hear from this wonderful young man who is just brilliant and wonderfully talented and just hilarious. He recently won a Young Poets competition for the Crystal Palace Festival and performed there. And I was like, I have to get him here. It was actually here he performed. The festival was here. And I was like, I have to get him on this. It just makes perfect sense. So everyone at home, be aware there is going to be strong language, quite a bit, I've heard. So please be aware at this time. So can we get clicks? Can we get claps? And lots of love for Jamal Hassan. I'll let you adjust.
Hi, my name's Jamal, and I'm so straight there are no wardrobes in my house because I'll die before I cover myself in anything that just came out the closet. I'm so straight I only shake hands with lesbians because I can't stand a hand that might have touched a dick because that's basically a second-degree hand job. I'm so straight I eat bananas sideways like a corn on the cob. I'm so straight that all of my headphones are over ear because my greatest fear is having anything penetrate my holes, even the ones I used to hear. I'm so straight that if I'm at a sleepover and the only bed available is a bunk bed, then I'm sleeping on the floor because I'm not a top or a bottom. I'm so straight that at that sleepover, if I'm wearing my Spider-Man printed pajamas, I'll draw dresses on all of them so no one will think I sleep with a bunch of men on top of me. I'm so straight that it gives me BO because I won't touch a man's body in the shower, even my own. I'm so straight that I don't wipe my ass when I shit because I'm scared I just might like it. I'm so straight that I don't eat popcorn because that's basically a busted nut. I'm so straight that I only go out at night and I only look at opaque objects so I don't see a rainbow in the sky and a reflection or anywhere else for that matter. I'm so straight that I get uncomfortable when I handle microphones because they are just a little bit phallic. I'm so straight that when I make love to men, wait, what? I'm so straight that I'm always miserable. Because to be happy is to be gay. I'm so straight, I've developed body dysmorphia, training my mind to hate my body so I don't find any man attractive, especially myself. I'm so straight, I manipulate my mental health and let it manifest as violence towards women because I envy their strength and their support networks as well. And as a result, I try to ensure that their lives are a living hell, all while thinking I'm the first and only bloke to think he can treat women this way. I mean, imagine how awful it would be if more men were like me, aggressively perpetuating misogyny to downplay latent homosexuality. Oh, wait, shit. That happens all the time, doesn't it? So now that I've told you who I am, let me tell you a bit about myself. So I have a fetish for walking into tanning salons and asking the tangerines at the front desk for the usual. Because I love watching Clementine cheeks burn blood orange as they scramble for the manager to ask if she might know what the fuck this Negro is on about. I have a kink for breaking the rules of personal space when patronized about how well-spoken I am. I like to get in close and smell the cheap, fake marketplace perfume worn by the Katie Hopkins classists who tell me that London isn't my true home. Versace, but Versace spelled with an F. And then I explain how my pronunciation, poise, and use of punctuation came about this way. So we begin in 1482 with slaves brought to Portugal from Ghana. Leave that in a pot to stew for 4 centuries. Add a dash of Brits too lazy to get their own goddamn gold. Sprinkle on top an education system funded by UNICEF charities, built by Christian missionaries, and voila. A culture with European supremacy so deeply ingrained the people will do anything to feel like an honorary white. Some might move their families to the countries that stole from them, which is kind of like returning to the dilapidated shack of your deadbeat ex, only all his other baby mothers are living in that house too. And for some reason, he resents you for your difficulty finding work, despite him being the one who draws dicks on your CV in lime green Sharpie daily, all the while telling you to go back to where you came from, even though he is the one who sold your floorboards, your windows, and your doors to fund the massive dick measuring contest with the rest of his European colonizing neighbors. And if you dare to remind him of his sin, then he'll just call you a plunger or a broken toilet for bringing up old shit. You know, sometimes I wonder what's keeping me from, at the very least, sleeping with rich white men exclusively just so that I could ruin their orgasms and whisper, reparations. Or stockpiling sheep stomach acid from slaughterhouses to crumble the marble walls of Parliament, or stealing sulfur from secondary school science labs as I hoard fertilizer and charcoal to make gunpowder. But then my mum asks me if I'm hungry, unaware of her son's latent taste for anarchy, and I'm reminded of the 2 jobs she worked, of her emaciated ribcage, how badly her stomach hurt just so I could eat another day in that 1-bedroom flat in Gypsy Hill, burgled so often they ran out of things to steal. and I become afraid. Afraid that my lust to settle the score will only destroy everything that she has fought for. This next one is for my mum. It's called 8:38. It is 8:38 a.m. on a Tuesday in 2003. A black woman drives her kids to school. She is a multitasking mother. Raised to remember the oral traditions of old, she does not need a list to organize or compartmentalize her life. Baby Mariam spits out her pacifier for the third time this morning. Mama leans to her left, picks it up, sucks and spits off the dirt, and returns it to baby's wailing mouth, ready for the game to start again. Only this time it doesn't. Flashing blue lights freeze her in her tracks. Of all the days she could have forgotten her license at home, it just had to be this one. Then her life flashes before her eyes. Then headlines, chalk lines, children crying, spin doctors on ITV offering diagnoses on why she deserved to die because she refused to comply. Because the difference between a beat cop and a detective is a question of cognitive dissonance. They saw the child car seat, the accumulated crumbs and hair-coated sweets, an open and shut case on the subject of ownership. Only the three-pointed star of a Mercedes coupled with the color of its owner made them assume otherwise. Because you can drag your family out of poverty, working 50-hour weeks for 15 years and still find yourself handcuffed, apologizing for crimes you could never commit, begging to be let go because any longer and who knows what your kids could see, thanking the men profusely for letting you leave their sight alive. Ever since that night, that day in 2003, Mum has tried to be the perfect image of stoic pride, laughing it off as one of the many random situations that a person can get caught in. After all, how would you treat the day you thought your kids could become orphans? Okay, this next one is about love, animals, and climate change. It's called Black Jaguar, Black Panther. On a sun-stricken day, lost to time, a black jaguar happens upon a panther and his kill. Together they share bits of flesh in silence. Jaguar always staring at panther's ebony eyes, not saying a word. One having an oral tradition saying that staring is a request to start a fight, but the other is a simple sign of respect. They're two cats raised in the Pan-African bush, and a monsoon passes, and jaguar and panther share meat often paid for with panther's own sweat amongst the dunes of desert and Serengeti. Jaguar aspires to draw blood like panther, or to wear his skin like a cloak, or to claw his throat out. He doesn't know. So many years spent fighting with lions and spiders over carrion scraps, tricked by the gods. It had squashed the poor jaguar's eyes into a suspicious squint whenever confronted with kindness. But there was another thought, one that brought the jaguar back to being a cub. Mama Jaguar roaring stories poorly passed down about the sins and dangers that come from playing with panthers. But the jaguar licks his fangs at the thoughts of the two of them, rolling in grass now long dead, purring, growling, neither caring about wayward scratches and abrasive tongues lapping each other's blood before becoming one in body and one in mind. Nowadays, jaguar stalks the herds, from wildebeest to antelope, searching for the biggest brute, all muscle, a stampede standing on four hooves, dreaming of panther's face, eyes wide and salivating at the sight dropped before his obsidian paws. The gift of a kill, even he couldn't manage alone.
Jamal, just first of all, your second poem, I saw it on Instagram the other day. I secretly wanted you to perform it here. I was so should I ask him? So I'm so glad you did. I love that poem.
Cute. I do take requests, so
You've got this phenomenal, really unique style of delivery, often very comedic and so powerful. How did you figure that out? Where did that come from?
So it was mainly down to like an identity crisis, really, because when I started doing poetry, I only wanted to do funny poetry, because I thought that one, that was just entertaining. It was something I enjoyed doing, and also I didn't like that poetry took itself so seriously, because a lot of my favorite poets, when I got into it, they would always just make jokes. Like all of the poetry I liked was like comedy poetry. So I started just doing comedy for a while, but then when I was going through a lot of stuff, I then started to actually experiment with taking myself a little bit seriously. And then just through practice, I learned how to like combine serious and funny together.
Wow, that's really brilliant. That's really amazing. I like how you said poetry itself very seriously, because often it does, and particularly in the past it would, and that's why people argue about spoken word and Instagram poetry not really being poetry, because it's.
Yeah, I think everything counts as poetry, like, but the main thing is when there's like, I felt like there was far too much gatekeeping, which was why I felt it took itself seriously. But then I started actually getting into the London scene and seeing that a lot of poets, especially like this new generation of poets, they like, it's not that they take themselves seriously, it's that they care. And there is nothing wrong with caring about what you write and what you perform. And that was kind of the impetus for me to actually be like, no, Jamal, like maybe you should, be a little bit vulnerable in front of the audience.
I love that. I feel you're able to combine the two, because you do it beautifully. You really do it amazingly. Like the way you do the first one is really brilliant, because it's so full of satire, and people can look at it and think, "Oh my gosh," and then you just realize. I think people can find that hard, and just you find a way to balance it really, really amazingly well.
Thank you.
Great.
So yeah, funny thing about that poem, I wrote it like because of my school. So it was more like written about toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
Because I went to an all boys school, and they were so terrified of anything being just remotely non-heterosexual. There was a walkway, I kid you not, there was a walkway in the school. They just called it Gay Man's Alley. If you stepped foot on that walkway, it meant you were gay. No ifs, no ands, no buts. And everyone just believed it. And I wanted to satirize that. But at the same time, I also thought that there is a genuine like pain coming from like this aversion to appear different. And yeah, but I feel like when it comes to balancing funny and serious, it's a lot easier than you think. It just takes practice, and you have to believe what you say.
I think I love that. I think that's the key thing of any poetry. That's why I always tell poets, believe what you're talking about. I think that's a really, really important thing, because it comes from you. Something you said you like comedic poets. Who are some of these poets, if anyone wants to check them out?
Yeah. So Bo Burnham, one of my favorite comedic poets. He was the main one. There were a lot of, oh god, who else was there? I would often just find like funny poems just lying around. There was, technically he's more of a musician, but there was also this poet/musician called Stephen Lynch. Really funny guy. All he did was just grab his guitar and just make funny songs, and I really enjoyed that. But and also John Cooper Clarke, very funny as well.
So you've given some great advice already. What advice would you give to any young poets trying to find their voice and find their poetic self?
So the main thing, if you are going to like try and perform, is own your awkwardness. If you're scared of being awkward, just own it, because nothing will be as liberating as just being your fully genuine awkward self, and then people will appreciate that honesty, because in most media that we have these days, there's a lack of honesty. And I think that's one thing that we appreciate with poetry. It's like, you can lie as much as you want in your poems, but eventually it will catch up with you, and you have to start being honest. And also, like as actual performance advice, one, time yourself when you perform. That helps you deal with things like preamble for poems, and also practice in front of the mirror so that you can actually look at your gait and how you are performing the thing. And also, yeah, just practice your pieces so that you can learn to do it without like needing a book or needing a phone. And it's totally fine to use either, but like once you get into the swing of being able to do without, then you're able to add so much more. And also, if you are worried about forgetting some of your lines, because I did actually forget some of the lines in my last poem, I don't know if anyone noticed, but just learn to improvise. Learn to improvise.
Amazing. I think that's wonderful advice. Learn to improvise, because Jamal just told us. Most of us probably wouldn't have known that, but not everyone sees them. So amazing, amazing advice. Thank you. You've been absolutely wonderful and phenomenal, which I knew you would be. So Jamal, everybody.
Thank you for having me.
So everybody, I'm gonna move this actually because I can, because I'm really short, so we're all right. So everybody, can you believe it already? We've already reached the end of the first night. Can you believe it? Thank you. Oh, over there. Thank you so much. Seriously, I want to say first of all a huge thank you to Sam, to Chantae, and Jamal. You were all amazing, like I knew you would be, and you all brought your own special, unique, beautiful style of poetry, which is what I wanted to showcase, to show that you can be really emotive and honest and open and use these incredible kind of metaphors and speak about yourself. You can be really open and soulful and revealing in new kind of ways. You can be funny and comedic and still powerful and raw. Poetry is not a one-size-fits-all thing. You can do so many different things with it. As you've heard today, don't be afraid of it. Reading is cool. Poetry can be funny. You know, it allows you to be vulnerable. Please take those things on board. Every young person out there, poetry is amazing. Nothing to be scared of. It is not just about old, middle-aged white men who have like a lot of money writing. It is for everybody. So please pick up that pen and write and find your voice. There's nothing more amazing than your voice and the way you tell your own story. No one can tell it like you. So again, thank you all. I'll thank you to everybody who has come out tonight and been part of the audience. Give the audience a round of applause. You came out, and that's a beautiful thing. In this weird COVID time, coming out is amazing. All of you who have tuned in at home to watch, thank you so much for tuning in. Please tune in again tomorrow. And a big, big, huge shout out to Upper Norwood Library Hub and to Galina on production. She's been amazing with the lighting and the sound. You haven't seen her, but seriously, I could not do this without her at this time. So please tune in tomorrow. We're back here. Hopefully we'll be on at 7:30. Might be 7:35. You know, technology is technology. Live is live. Things happen. So please tune in tomorrow. We're going to have poetry and conversation. I've got 3 more amazing performers for you. We've got Joe Dugan. We've got Miss Yankee and Mark, Mr. Mark T. Thompson. Trust me, it's going to be fire. The conversation is going to be great. You'll want to tune in. Do not miss it. Thank you, everyone. I've been your host, Shanika Benjamin. Have a beautiful rest of your night.